I'm a musician. I've been a vegetarian now for about a year and a half. I'm a sustainability activist, a futurist, and I'm passionate about food. And in short, I want to feed the world. I work during the day as a software engineer. I spent the last 2 years of my spare time learning and volunteering for an organisation called the Venus Project. My role as a point of contact for the Venus Project is to help organise activism and education of the supporters of the Venus Project here in the UK, and we aim to spread the word that another role really is possible. So what is the Venus Project? Well, the Venus Project is an organisation that proposes a feasible plan of action for social change, a holistic socio-economic system called a resource-based economy. It works towards a peaceful and sustainable global civilization that simply has the potential to change all of our lives by providing all of the necessities of life and much more without a price tag to all human beings, whilst also being in harmony with nature and preserving the earth for generations to come. The Venus Project slogan is beyond politics, poverty and war, and that gives a glimpse of what the Venus Project and a resource-based economy has to offer. So a resource-based economy is a very large concept, and it will take hours for me to cover all of the topics that surround it. So if you want to read a bit more about a resource-based economy, more than I go over today, I would suggest you go to thevenusproject.com. There's lots and lots of information up there, so you can investigate it at your own pace. Today, I'd like to focus in depth on one area of our economy, which is food, as we're at Vegetarian Stuff already. So we're going to talk about agriculture and food production. Some of the problems that we face today with these industries, as well as the changes of the future, and how these problems can be averted through the implementation of a resource-based economy. I was here last year attending VegFest 2013, and it was a great eye-opener for me to really start thinking about the way I eat, and it really kicked me off becoming a vegetarian, like a full-time vegetarian. It's kind of going for a while. I got there. There's lots of good arguments for being vegetarian, and I'd just like to share with you a few that got me over the line. No, wrong way. So on the standard American westernized kind of diet, which is what I generally was on beforehand, a lot of people are on, it takes 1.3 acre fields to feed one person a year. However, on a plant-based diet... One, two. Very nice. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much. I just realised I wouldn't have been recorded. Never mind. So if we go to a plant-based diet, the same amount of area can feed 14 people that feeds just one person. So if we're looking, sorry, get a bit closer. So if we're looking around the world and seeing hungry people, then we know that we have the space and we have the resources to feed them. And also what that does is if we go over to a plant-based diet, it means we can give back 5/6 of the land that is currently used by agriculture to nature, which is something that has been going on, well, that's a problem that we'll come to in a little bit. So when we hear that hear in the news that poverty today and there's problems of food security in the future, it's not necessarily that we don't have the resources, it's our methods of resource management which are currently found wanting. I've found going vegetarian has been a good start for me, but it has done a small amount in the larger system. There is more that we can do. So some of the issues that we still face today, even though I'm a vegetarian, and so we all went vegetarian, waste. About half of the world's food produced goes to waste. And there's not just talking about meat. 30% of the vegetable crops of the UK are just not harvested because they fail to meet retailer standards of physical appearance. Malnutrition and death in the world. 21,000 roughly people die every day from malnutrition and malnutrition-related illnesses. These are mainly children, and these are mainly poor people who don't have access to food. And they don't have access not because the food isn't there, but because we restrict it through money. So in the UK, these are just some reports that I found which were very illuminating. Charities and police have reported a rise of people shoplifting just to get by, just for basic food supplies, like baby milk and food. And what that also can do is it pushes people into crime, because they need to support themselves and their families somehow in a system which restricts food that is there. Supermarkets are rarely empty, yet people are going hungry every day. So another one is deforestation. Sorry. Nearly 3/4, that's 71% of all tropical deforestation between 2000 and 2012 was caused by commercial agriculture. Nearly 70% of all soy in international trade comes from deforested areas, where it's not naturally grown, and about half of that is on illegally deforested areas. It's not just soy, obviously. Beef contributes 32% of all deforestation. 32% of all beef comes from deforested areas, and all the palm oil in the world, in international trade, comes from deforested areas. So today we use the technique of monoculture generally, which is one crop per field. And this technique can be very environmentally disruptive, especially when combined with deforested areas. Most of the time, the crops that are grown are not native, and that causes the soil to be, that causes the fertile topsoil layer to be depleted, and can have massive drains on the local hydro and nutrition values of the soil. However, not everyone today can afford to pay £2 for a locally grown lettuce. So shipping in monoculture is much cheaper in today's monetary system, so it continues. To go along with that is emissions. Agriculture in the UK cost 30% of our carbon emissions of the last year. 57% of that was livestock farming, which goes to show that going vegetarian is not the whole answer. It will definitely help, but there's still 43% emissions coming from the vegetable market. Some other issues we face today are such as advertising and marketing. Many products are sold as healthy and the best in the market. However, there's very little scientific backup for what is being shown. We're told that this is the #1 protein bar, but we have no real clue. Many people everyone who's selling a product has to make a profit on it to survive. So their incentive is to sell it you, not necessarily to give you the best information possible. And beyond that, we also have education today is somewhat lacking. This was a photo, unfortunate for her, I'm sorry, from the climate change marches on Wall Street last week, where climate change activists were lining up to get burgers. So people who are honestly trying to do their bit don't have the information, the education to really know what they're doing and to see the harm that they are causing. It took myself 23 years to break my indoctrinated habit of eating meat. I was unquestioning it. I was just raised and thought this way. It was in my school, it was in my home. So how many people out there who were provided with the same information that I received over the last 2 years would make the change? So we need to create more education about these issues. So the issue seems to be money and restriction. So how do we get around this? Do we all get down the allotments? Well, it's a start. I grow a little bit of my own food. However, this requires a lot of manual labour, some areas of land and time and money for me to be able to really do this, which I currently can't afford because I work a job. However, there are technologies that can bring about a change in the way that we grow and distribute our food. I'd like to today quickly introduce a few such technologies that you might be aware of and just bring them into this context. So the first one is hydroponics and greenhouses. So compared to conventional soil agriculture, hydroponics allows us a 70% water reduction on the amount that we need to water the plants. This is because the system recycles the water rather than on conventional soil. Most of the water just drains straight through to the lower earth. Hydroponics can be grown in greenhouses, which is a controlled environment, which means that we can grow any type of food anywhere in the world and grow consistently all year round. Hydroponics, while not all of it is organic, it can be done organically, and that will be increasing in the future. Because it's in a controlled environment, there's no need for pesticides or herbicides. Another interesting technology, this is still early emerging, but on the right you see here, this is a vertical farm from Singapore. Vertical farming takes into account another axis of dimension of growing. Conventional soil just goes across the surface area, which forces deforestation as we need to spread out across one layer of growing. Vertical farming allows us to go up, very much like a skyscraper. And through this, we can become much more efficient using land space rather than having to spread and consume more land space and dig into environmental rainforests, for instance. So this allows us to grow much more food in the same area. And if we went back to the earlier slide where I said that 5/6 of our land could be given back to the earth if we all switch to vegetarian. Well, if we switch to a purely plant-based diet with vertical farming, say a 4-story vertical farm, that means that we only need 4% of the agricultural land space that is used today. Oh. Sorry, I should also introduce, this is some more designs. You might see them on the web. Bigger vertical skyscraper designs are coming. I really think they'll be coming soon. Right now we haven't got any real ones to show you at the moment, but there's some in construction. This one in Singapore is very cool though. You can check that out on YouTube. So another one is automating the farming process. This I think is key to moving forwards as a society. So we see on the left, this is FarmBox. It's an idea that's still early days, but it's capable of complex planting. So you don't need to just plant the same crop across a whole field. You can plant many different crops in a system that works together for the soil, to maintain the soil nutrients as it goes along. This can also do watering and pruning. And on the right here we have an early experimental system of a strawberry picking robot by IamBrain. It can scan the strawberry for it's the right color, and then it has a complex arm which can go and pick the strawberry. And it can do this day in, day out, no stopping whatsoever. It takes a little bit longer than a human to do it, but the thing is that humans have to have toilet breaks and they have to eat and all that stuff. This guy can do it day in, day out. Sorry, seems to be missing a slide. So removing human labour and becoming more efficient with our space and the systems that we use to grow food is nothing new. It's like the tractor and the lawnmower. Technology allows us to be more effective with less people. And automation will happen because it's in the interest of business today. The less people they need to employ, the more technology can take over the jobs and run on renewable energy. Once the system is set up, there is very little running costs, so they can keep on producing without any monetary costs. Yet automation within a monetary system has some problems. It can create unemployment, which can generate more poverty, meaning more people have access to food that is being produced by less people. I said more people do not have access, right? Sorry. Other negatives have emerged as well from the profit system, such as the advertising, lack of information, and the consumer manipulation, which I referenced to a little bit earlier. That would still be there within the monetary system. And what I've tried to show here is our current socioeconomic system, which is namely the monetary system, which caused many of the issues above and can cause issues into the future. So the issue seems to be, what can we do to remove money from the system? From the problem of feeding humans. So how do we do that? I'm here to say that the best solution that I've come across is presented by the Venus Project. And it's a concept called a resource-based economy, which I related to earlier. But who are the Venus Project and what is a resource-based economy? Now's my next slide. So the Venus Project founder Jack Fresco with co-founder Roxanne Meadows, based in the town of Venus, Florida, hence the name, have been researching and designing and developing the ideas and technology behind a resource-based economy for literally decades. Mr. Fresco's background includes industrial design, social engineering, as well as being a forerunner in the field of human factors. He's now 98 and has worked since the 1930s as both a designer and inventor in a wide range of fields, spanning from biomechanical inventions to totally integrated social systems. The Venus Project reflects the culmination of Mr. Fresco's life work, the integration of the best of science and technology into a comprehensive plan for a new society based on human and environmental concern. It is a global vision of hope for the future of mankind in our technological age, and has attracted global attention from the BBC and other commercial news stations such as Russia Today. Numerous publications have been released, including documentaries, books, lectures, and educational seminars. Jack and Roxanne, to give her slide, have been featured in many radio and magazine television interviews all around the world. And so now for the second question, what is a resource-based economy? Here is Jack himself to tell you directly, although it is a video.
What is a resource-based economy? I'm sure you've all heard about it, but a resource-based economy is entirely different than anything that has ever existed in the past. Most decisions were made by kings, politicians, statesmen, but nothing based upon resources. To better understand the meaning of a resource-based economy, picture an island somewhere in the South Pacific, and you really want to know how many people can that island support, and to what degree can the extravagance of the island be maintained. First, you have to know how much wood there is, how much water, how much arable land. Once you do a survey of the resources of that island, that can best be the method for determining how many people it will support. If the materials do not exist, you can only design a culture based upon the materials that do exist. You can only grow food based upon the arable land area and the water surrounding the island, the fish, crustaceans, all the other things. And if you have an agronomist on your island, or a series of them, they can advise you as what is best to grow in that tropical region. So you really need technical competence in order to arrive at decisions that make sense. You cannot arrive at decisions that make sense by consensus, by asking people what they want. You have to find out what the island has to offer, and that's what you can determine the future by. All other systems will fail. Politicians have opinions about everything and information about nothing in particular. Therefore, you understand that the decisions are not made by the majority of people, they're made by the majority of people that have technical competence, that have information in the areas you wish to excel in, and methods of scientific scales of performance. If you have 1 million sincere people that have no technical competence, I can assure you nothing can be accomplished. So you have to ask the questions, can we build a society of sustainability? If you have no information as to the availability of resources, you cannot undertake such a project. Suppose you have a shortage of resources. That's the function of research labs, to make alternative materials that will substitute for lack of materials. Technicians do not tell you what to do or how to live. They merely carry out the function of designing elevators, transportation units, bridges, housing systems. They do not tell people what to do, what to think, or how to live. That's a mistake that most people make. They think that a resource-based economy has technicians that also tell you what lifestyle to use. No, they don't. The resources determine that. All that the technicians do is build a system that can utilize those resources for the benefit of all the people involved. It has to be global. If it's not global, if you have most of the resources and most of the building equipment and most of the automated machinery and most of the arable land and most of the drinking water, countries that do not have that will attempt to invade your country and take what they need. Every nation wants a piece of the pie. Keep that in mind. So to the degree that you try to live a sustainable life to yourself will not work, because other nations that lack material will invade you. In the rebuilding of cities throughout the world, you have to consider how far those cities are from resources. That means available materials, concrete, steel, reinforcement, etc. If the cities are near that source, then it becomes more efficient to design the cities as systems operations, meaning that the city itself must meet the needs of the people that live there. We announce on television what is available and what is not available at the time, and when it probably will be available, so the public has information of where to go to access whatever it is that they need. So people will have access to more things than they've ever had in a monetary system. More things and more opportunities will be available. All of the cities are designed to utilize a minimum amount of energy for maximum service. In that way, we conserve energy so that we can handle more people. There are people throughout the world that do not have access to high energy systems. We'll be able to provide more for human need if we use efficiency. Naturally, if we fail to do that, you can only take care of a limited amount of people. The resource-based economy has millions of slaves, but they're machines. And machines do repetitive, boring, and dangerous jobs. That's what the machines are for. They're not to put you out of work. If they can turn things out faster than you, we don't need you working. In fact, we don't want you working in an industrial plant. We want you to go back to school and study whatever you're interested in, whatever you think you'd like to study, whatever you feel you'd like to understand better. Unfortunately, money doesn't represent things in existence. If you set a value on every tree, every inch of arable land, all the water, and you printed money proportionate to the resources, so that the money represents resources, then it can have meaning. But today, that is not accomplished. Although they may tell you that demand will really bring about these things. No, demand doesn't bring about the things, available resources do. And if money doesn't represent available resources, it has no basis for social management. When you live in a false society that bases its wealth upon money, then that society itself will collapse eventually, not because I say so, because it's not based on physical reference. In a resource-based economy, where production and automation can turn out more goods and services, there's no need to use money anymore. If you really wish to put an end to war, poverty, hunger, territorial disputes, you must utilize all the world's resources as the common heritage of all the world's people. Anything less than that will remain with the same problems that you've had continuously for centuries. Now you have to consider what I'm saying. The reason nations invade other nations is because of scarcity. When few nations control most of the Earth's resources, you've got to have territorial disputes. No matter how many treaties you sign or laws you make, if you don't declare all the Earth's resources as the common heritage of all the world's people and bring all the separate nations together in one unified system, there is no solution other than that. And this is why we recommend a resource-based economy.
All right, so there was a lot to take in there. I myself have known about the Venus Project for a few years, and I'm still learning all the time. We'll have time for questions a little later with a few of our extra supporters who've come down. But first, I just thought I'd go through a little bit more information on my talk. Although, sorry, I should say here that I am also a volunteer. I'll try to do my best to answer your questions. I'll try to give you as accurate information as I can. However, of course, you should go to thevenusproject.com to straight to the source for real information, for direct information. Sorry. So in terms of the here and now, what's going on with the Venus Project? Well, there's a three-phase plan already in existence. The first phase of the Venus Project's long-term plans is already underway. Jacques Fresco and his associate Roxanne Meadows have completed the construction of a 21-acre research center in Florida, Venus, Florida, to help present the proposals of the Venus Project. You can kind of see it in the background here. It's full of lovely concrete domes and lots of grass and shelter. Phase 2 includes the production of a full-length feature film which will depict how a world embracing the proposals advanced by the Venus Project would work. This film would provide a positive vision for a peaceful society in which all human beings form a global family on planet Earth. A civilization in which all people are engaged in the pursuit of better understanding of the world they share. This film has been designed to be an entertaining and educational experience for both adults and children, and the script is well underway, and with potential for sharing awareness via the film is very exciting. We have a very dedicated producer and scriptwriter working on it, and it's been gaining a lot of interest. Phase 3 is to test its designs and proposals. The Venus Project is working towards putting its ideas into practice by the construction of an experimental research city. The blueprints for most of the initial technologies and buildings have begun, and fundraising efforts are currently underway to help support the construction of this first experimental city. The research university city would be devoted to working towards the aims of the goals of the Venus Project, which are realizing the declaration of the world's resources as being common heritage to all people, transcending the artificial boundaries that currently and arbitrarily separate people, replacing money-based nationalistic economies with a resource-based world economy, assisting in stabilizing the world's population through education and voluntary birth control, reclaiming and restoring the natural environment to the best of our ability, redesigning cities, transportation systems, agricultural industries, and industrial plants so they are efficient, clean, and able to conveniently serve the needs of all people, gradually outgoing corporate entities and governments, local, national, or supranational, as a means of social management. Sharing and applying new technologies for the benefit of all nations. Developing and using clean, renewable energy sources. Manufacturing the highest quality products for the benefit of all the world's people. Requiring environmental impact studies towards the construction of any mega projects. Encouraging the widest range of creativity and incentive towards constructive endeavor. Outgrowing nationalism, bigotry, and prejudice through education. Eliminating elitism, technical or otherwise. Arriving at methodologies by careful research rather than random opinions. Enhancing communication in our schools so that our language is relevant to the physical conditions of our world. Providing not only the necessities of life, but also offering challenges that stimulate the mind whilst emphasizing individuality rather than uniformity. And finally, preparing people intellectually and emotionally for the changes and challenges ahead. So what would food look like within a resource-based economy? Well, it's hard to say at the moment, but from what we've learned so far, we can see that the food and agricultural system for growing, producing, even cooking and distributing food would be an integral part of a new type of city that will be built in a resource-based economy. The system would be designed to meet the requirements of the population based on the environment and available resources that are surrounding the city. Nutritious food is guaranteed to all individuals within the city. There will no longer be cheap food. As there's no restriction of access, everyone has access to the best foods. Therefore, there is no motive to grow and market harmful foods or follow environmentally harmful practices for the motive of maximizing profit. No motives for manipulation or misinformation about a product would be relevant in the city, as there's no profit from selling, only accurate information would be presented. Scientists would be freed from the monetary corruption of needing to sell their research to back up their results. So any information from research would be published. Today, lots of information is not published because it doesn't meet the requirements of the employer of the scientist. But will people be able to grow their own food within a resource-based economy? Yes, they would. In fact, many of the people who want to be and who will be motivated to grow their own food would be encouraged to help and to come in and help the automated system that provides food for the entire city, rather than just working for their own survival. People will always have the choice in what they eat, although there will be recommendations and information based on the latest scientific knowledge. And by guaranteeing access to nutritious food for all humans, there will be knock-on effects such as less crime, less war, better health and less death around the world. Less stress for most people as they no longer have to worry about surviving, and less deaths from pure starvation. More choices will be allowed for individuals, and they will have a better relationship to nature. Oh, I missed one. Never mind. So that was it for my talk. If you'd like to get involved with our activism, what we're doing in the UK, I am part of TUP Activism UK. If you want to get in touch with us, what we are doing at the moment is raising awareness and educating ourselves and others through weekly meetings and through doing talks such as these. We've also been coordinating activism projects from all around the UK, so even if, say for instance, I live fairly on my own out in the country, we still work as a team with these guys from London, and we have people from all around the UK. We meet up very regularly on the internet. So if you would like to get involved and get in touch with us, we'll have questions in a second, but you can email england@TVP Activism to get in touch with the England arm, or you can go straight to thevenusproject.com for lots more information about the Venus Project. Many films have already been released, such as Paradise or Oblivion and Future by Design. These are available on YouTube. If you simply go to YouTube and type in the Venus Project, you'll find their official channel, which has lots and lots of videos, probably hours, I don't know, 100 hours maybe of lectures. There's a lot of stuff there. I haven't gone through it all, and I've been slowly working through it for about 2 years. So that's the end of my talk. I think, yeah. First thing, thank you very much. Yeah, thank you all for coming up and listening to me. What we're going to do